that crunch when you pick them up, it's a no-go for me. Those should not be in your house. And then last, but definitely most important, if you pick something up and say, hey, I could repurpose this, but you have 6 repurposed projects in your garage, that's called denial, not creativity. Get those 6 projects done and then go back thrifting.
Hello, welcome back to Boss Babes here. We are loving on each other and doing by putting God first in all that we do. On this week, as we always jump right in because we don't believe in wasting anyone's time, we have Miss Sarah Trop. She is an award-winning HGTV designer. She is an owner and lead designer of FunCycle. She is here to show you how to create experiences out of your spaces, how to bring God back into those spaces, and how to have strategy for you moving forward into what it is that you're doing with business and not to leave God out of it. So I want to welcome you. Welcome, Miss Sarah Trop.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been exciting already, our first conversation, just getting to know you a little more. I love what you do. I love your heart to incorporate God in spaces and your lives and work. So I think it's a great alignment being here today.
Absolutely, that is key. A key word that you just said, alignment. I only interview with people or people on my podcast or go on theirs when we're aligned, and that's important. Starting out in this conversation, to be aligned with who it is you're lending your ear or who you're lending your voice to. When you're out of alignment, there's always ways for the enemy to come in and attack. When you're out of alignment, there was ways for you to not be able to get back up on your feet because you didn't put God in it. So alignment is important, to be aligned. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. I thank you for being here and showing up. And Miss Trop is not Miss Sarah. We're just going to call her Sarah because she's our friend now. She's family. Sarah is not someone who you show up and she's not there. She shows up. And I'm getting that spiritually, on a friendship level, on a business level, she shows up. And I appreciate her. And I think I know that's what's part of what's aligning us, is that you are a type of person that shows up. And in this season of my life, I'm asking God for people who are like that. So that's super important to, even in the podcast and every other different ventures of my life, or anyone who's listening's life, for you to have people that show up. And Sarah is someone who shows up.
That's really kind of you to say. Thank you so much. And, that's interesting because just yesterday I had coffee with a friend and we were talking about the importance of consistency within your community. I know this isn't what we're here to talk about, but I think that's really important to remember, that people who show up and say they will, what they say they'll do, they actually do. That's biblical too, right? If our yeses should be yes, our no's should be no's.
Yes.
And when you're growing community or growing friendships or growing work relationships, it's so important. I just want to encourage anybody listening to, to the best of your ability, keep your word.
Yeah.
I have somebody in my life right now who tends to like to cancel all the time. And,
Mm,
the thing what happens with that is you aren't prioritizing on a relationship, and then you're not going to really sharpen each other.
right.
And so things come up, but if that becomes a consistent pattern, you might want to say, maybe this is why I'm missing community, maybe this is why I don't have the friends I want,
Right.
and really just be faithful in that. So I agree with you
That's
so much.
right. That's right. So in your walk of business, of designing and, leading, being a lead designer, how do you incorporate God back into the business? How do you keep him priority, keep him first?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a personal relationship first, right? So making sure that I'm in prayer, asking the Holy Spirit to lead me. I forget some days, but I'm trying to make it more and more of a priority to say, God, lead me by your Holy Spirit today. Open doors that give me opportunity to share more about you, and help me be faithful to use my giftings and my words to walk through those doors and point people to a closer relationship to you. I find that when I don't start my days with that, I'm less aware of what God's doing around me. He's still always working. He still
Yes.
is using me in ways that I don't understand. But I do see much more clear open doors. Like, I'm aware and grateful of it when I start my day in prayer in that way. So I would say in making sure, as a business owner, you probably understand this too. We get so busy, right? Like, it's really hard. It's easy to be a business owner and just be self-consumed and thinking about your own growth and thinking about your own family. But I am a big proponent of a lot of spiritual refining happens in community. And
Mm,
so even that to me is very important. I have I try to be very rhythmatic with my friendships. There are certain friends I see every week. There's certain friends I talk to on the phone every other day. There are certain people I talk to every day.
yes.
And those rhythms look different based on where they're located or how long we've been friends or what the depth level is. But for me as a business owner to be successful, I have to have those friends who will refine and call me out on things when they see selfishness or they see arrogancy. I think one thing that's important to remember, and it's sometimes hard to swallow, but my pastor said this in a sermon a couple of weeks ago, and it kind of stuck with me. Spirituality gives us a predisposition to arrogancy.
Mm,
And I think that's really important to remember as we walk into any kind of leadership role, whether it's just leading a team or being a mom or being a friend. We
right.
have to be really careful as Christians to not be arrogant in the way that we address anything, whether it's
Yeah.
something in our, that we believe we're right in, or it's as a leader, just having that humility
Wow.
as we walk into work and as we walk into friendships, because most people know what they're supposed to be doing, right? And
Yeah.
really, it's up to God to prompt their hearts. But we are supposed to use our voices, so it's like, how can we humbly, through our own experiences, show like how God's working in us without being arrogant in our like convictions of what's right and wrong, I guess.
That's awesome. That's powerful. Very
Thank you.
powerful what you're saying. Your language is a language of a leader. You're not talking on a level of this might work or on a level of I heard or I read it somewhere. These are experiences I can tell you've lived out. And that one-on-one with the Holy Spirit, that stillness, knowing how to get quiet in those spaces. And it's important as a designer. I've dabbled into interior design and architecture in my younger years.
Oh, I
Um,
love that.
and so, yeah, so I found, and I've made furniture and all kinds of things like that. So I found that you can absolutely bring God into those spaces. God, what would you like me to design for your people? What are you saying in this space? And it's absolutely important to, as a leader, have those type of language. Your language is so important in business and whatever you do, your career is. But as a designer, a lead designer, your language is important in prayer. How you're saying you're starting off your day with that prayer. I want you who are listening to go back and listen to the prayer she said and say it yourself and try it yourself as a strategy. We're leaving out of this year in the last quarter going into 2026, and we want to go in with strategy. We want to go in with being able to combat and go against the enemy. And we don't want to pretend like he's not there, right? And
That's right.
so really quickly, I just saw a video a little while ago where a lot of people think that Halloween is the month to look out for. That's the one where you got to stay prayed up, and witches and warlocks are out here and enemies are out here. Not to divert from this conversation, but to just give you a nugget on why this part of the year is important. Why I'm bringing in people this last month who are strategists. Miss Chop is a strategist and being a lead designer. She's not just coming on here saying I throw around a few pillows. No, she's creating experiences in those spaces and bringing God into it, which changes the trajectory of how you live every day. You have to see these spaces every day and live in them. But a lot of people were saying or feel that October is the month, when December is the month where the enemy wants to steal your next year. December is the month where the enemy wants to come and scan and check out where are your weaknesses and what are you not holding up to and where are you not keeping your word and where is that sin that she can't get rid of at, right?
That's
That's the
right.
month. This coming month is where you want to buckle down and grab hold of strategy. Rewatch this video. She made a comment that I was writing with a pen pencil so you could hear it. Get your pen and your pencils out and write down all these keys that Miss Sarah is giving to you because it's going to bring you into your next year. This is very lighthearted because we are two sweet, loving people, but we're giving you gems. We're actually giving you jabs at the enemy in this conversation. And don't take our cute, pretty faces, lightly. We showed
That's
up and
right.
we're looking good today, but this is a jabber today to take
That's
into
right.
your next year. Okay, you know, I,
So good.
I feel like a lot of people. are just decorating their homes or their spaces or whatever it may be, and they're not even thinking, I want this to be an experience. You know?
Yeah.
What would you say you need to bring into your design or your as an experience?
Yeah, so it depends on what type of experience you want to create, right? Like, are you looking for a calm, more sacred space? Are you looking for a more fun? The Bible also says the joy of the Lord is our strength. So I think it's
Yeah.
important to consider joy in our spaces. I think it's really important to consider the fact that Jesus would leave people and go and be quiet and pray when
Yeah.
there were so many pressing needs, so many miracles that people wanted. The apostles had questions, and he would still prioritize getting away from it all and getting in stillness with God to kind of recharge. And so when we look at those examples of Jesus and we consider our lives as busy business owners or just anyone, like I know so many people who are just feel like 2025 was the busiest year of their life, right? They feel like, where did it go? I can't believe it's almost January. I can't believe Christmas is coming.
Right.
And so I would say take a step back from that before you can really answer that. You have to have the deeper knowing of yourself and what you're looking for in the space. I think if we're talking about joyful spaces, we have to talk about, and that's, I think joyful spaces are important to build community. And I think around the holidays, that's an important topic to talk about. So, in that, I like to say, hospitality, God calls us to be hospitable, right? That's part of what He wants His people to be, a place where homes are welcoming and people are in it and community happens,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
when we're walking into that, like, are we thinking about our guests as they are coming into the home? So everything from like the temperature of the space. And so people will say,
Mm.
like, they'll say to me, hey, it's so expensive to have a designer. And I say,
Right.
let's peel it back and just let's talk about some things that have nothing to do with design but can cultivate a joyful experience. And that
Wow.
can be something as simple as the temperature of the space, keeping it warm enough that guests won't feel cold when they're in there, cool enough that they won't feel like they have to they're overheated, I don't know, maybe I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of my friends are in that almost 50 girls menopause state, and they're a little
Yeah.
bit older than me. And so just kind of be sensitive to everything from temperature that costs you nothing, to, or very little, to things like what music are we playing? Let's play some worship
Right.
music. That
Right.
really cultivates your spirit without you even kind of knowing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a season this summer where a couple different friends over a couple weeks said to me, Sarah, can we come to your house? We're in a real rough season right now and we just need to get some peace. And when we come to your house, we feel peace.
Wow.
And I said, I'm not even home the days you want to stop by, but yes, my patio is your patio, my house is your house.
Yeah.
That's what community looks like, right? So I
Right.
invited him just come and sit and be in the stillness, and that just kind of reaffirmed what God has already been putting on my heart of the
Yes.
importance of a peaceful space, right?
Mm.
But when we're talking about first joyful space, let's say making sure there's places where there's plenty of seating for all of your guests.
Right.
Just think ahead on that because they'll feel like, oh, she thought about me. Things like you can go out into the woods and pick some fresh pine tree leaves, or while you're in, where are you based out of?
I'm in Florida.
So you're not going to have pine tree leaves, but pine tree sprigs. But there's things in nature that you can grab sticks and make a little
Yeah.
arrangement, even if you have no money.
I have an orange
All the
tree,
way up
so
to,
I'm sorry, I have
yeah,
an
yeah.
orange tree, so
Oh, perfect.
yeah.
That'd be really pretty. Put it in a nice
Yeah.
vase with some water in the bottom and just decorate the space in ways that feel happy and playful and have music and have good scents. Things like,
Mhm.
spray the room with some lavender or some other, really festive scent if you want to. But all of
Mhm.
those things are affect our mood when we walk in,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't even really think about it. We just know what it feels like when we're in it, right?
Right. Right.
So those are the things I would say for happy. But for peaceful, you
Yeah.
know, we do this thing, it's called biophilic design. And it's a fancy word of just saying, take what God created out there and bring it inside as much as possible.
That's good.
So, in sacred spaces, or if you want your home to overall feel more sacred, first of all, pray over your home. I'm a big proponent of praying over each room if you can.
Yes.
Pray when you walk in, when you buy a home, pray over it, pray God's blessing
Yes.
and peace over the space. But once you're in it, some things that about design that can cause more of that peaceful environment to take place is if you're in a, like my house is set off the road, there's woods before you could get any kind of traffic or anything like that. So most of my first floor has no curtains because I
Mm-hmm.
want as much natural light to come into the space as possible. The
Yeah.
kitchen that I'm in right now, it feels like a snow globe in the winter because it's tons of windows and just the snow will fall all the way around it. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, to me that feels like I'm in this sacred place, like I'm in creation
Yeah.
but still warm and cozy, right?
Those those are beautiful, beautiful ways that people can recreate. And I want you viewers who are listening to really, oh my gosh, such a rich conversation and keys inside of what you're saying. And as I wrote down what we were going to talk about, I could hear the Holy Spirit saying, flow, flow, also flow in what you're talking about, which allows him to come into. So how do we talk about these sacred spaces, but we don't allow him to flow into our conversation? So we're absolutely allowing him to flow. So this is a flow moment where God is saying, whenever you're gonna hire somebody to interior decorate, to be a chef, to whatever it is, to be a coach for you, make sure that that person has integrity. And when Sarah is saying with allow lighting into the space, allow God into the space, pray before, those are keys of again leader language, and those are keys of someone who is coming to you with integrity. They're not saying, let's go where the furniture is thousands of dollars first. Let's go where it's going to cost you this much money to have someone come in and knock down these walls. And she's not even giving you concepts that are going to, eradicate you financially and really knock you down. You're going into a new year. She's giving you gems of things that are free, gems of things that you should be doing anyway as a woman or man of God who is a leader, who is running a business, because you want to come home to those things and you want people to feel invited into those things. So this conversation today is a conversation of integrity.
And honestly, I feel like I could say the same back to you with life coaching. Like I can tell that that's what you infuse into your life coaching. And even the fact that you're doing this for people where it's free and it doesn't gain you anything necessarily, like if they
Yeah.
can just listen to it and implement some things in their life.
Yeah.
But then if you want more help, picking someone with integrity with similar beliefs or vision from God, that you would be such a help for that. You know what I mean? So I want to push that back to you and say, like, I see it in you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And so as we journey through this conversation of number one, finding that stillness in business and in your spaces. Number two, creating atmospheres of peace, not just for you, but for people who you're inviting into your home. She had guests who come to her home because she's known for having a peaceful space. Clock that. It wasn't I called you up because I needed some money. It wasn't I called you up because I need you to watch the kids. These are general things that people go to other people for because they can't get the deeper things. This is a deeper thing. I want to come to your home because I need peace, and I know I'm gonna find it there. It's incredible. It's absolutely
Yeah,
incredible. You know, um, I
I agree.
once had you know people who I counted on, people who I thought were family or friends, who I had to go to them for generic things. I had to go to them for surface level things because that's all they had the capacity for. So as we talk about integrity, we have to talk about capacity as well. What level do your friends or your family, you as a business owner, what do you even have capacity for? Can somebody come to you and say, I can find peace here? I can get prayer with you here? You know?
And can I press into that a little bit too? I know this isn't design related, but do you mind if I press into that side of this
Sure,
as well?
sure.
So I have a dear friend I have been friends with most of my life. And just a couple weekends ago, I was visiting her out of town, and we have sat down, but we don't have a level of depth because she tends to not go deep. Now, I love to go deep in conversation. That's my love language. Like, let's dive in, let's get real, let's
Mhm.
talk through the hard
Yeah, yeah.
things. But with her, we haven't. And she said, we sat down for breakfast, and she said, "Can I just ask you something?
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I don't know you at all, and we've been
Oh,
friends for
wow.
decades." And she's like, would you say
Oh
that's true?
wow.
Yeah. And I said, yeah, I would agree. You don't really know me. And she was like, it's because I don't ask you anything about yourself and you don't allow us to go deep. And I said, yeah, that's very true. And she's like, I want to change that. I want to change that. I said, and I thought, what made this change for you? What made this shift? She hired a life coach
Uh,
for just a few months and she saw the difference that depth can make in your life. And I feel like
mm,
when you get to that level of a deeper knowing of someone, knowing of yourself, knowing of others, and then knowing of God, once you go in, you can't go back. You don't
that's
want it
right.
anymore.
That's right.
And so
That's
people
right.
who have been thinking like, should I life coach with you? You like I am such a proponent of life coaching. I'm a proponent of therapy. But my friend, it was a life coach and it, I could see the transformation of her soul from just a
Right.
few months of talking to a life coach. And
Yeah.
so what a sweet conversation we had. We dove into depths that we've never gone to. We had real conversation about how do we go continue to this depth? How do we complement each other? What are our enneagrams? How do they help each other? We just went through so many different personality things together.
Yeah.
And it was such a gift to my heart. So when you said that, I'm like, oh, that rings so true. We need depth. We need to know ourselves. We need to know others and to love well. You have to know well.
Absolutely, absolutely. A part of, I hope you would agree with me, a part of designing not just a room, but there's a part of designing your life. And a part of designing your life is cultivating those relationships and taking them into deeper levels where they weren't before. So this
Yes.
conversation today is not just about gems about designing, which people are getting that, but how are you designing the rest of your life as well? How are you designing those relationships? Are you
That's right.
allowing God in? Are you allowing the layers? This woman knew her friend but never really knew her friend, you know?
Yeah.
So
I
let's take that in as well. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think there could be a whole nother podcast day on how to be a friend.
Yeah,
it's such a need for so many people.
yeah,
And that's what she and I did. We dove into like how could she get more friendships? I'm her only friend.
wow,
And what that looks like and how I walk through it with people. And it's just it's such a joy once you start having that depth with people to be able to keep
yeah.
that up. But
It's so
anyway,
it's
sorry.
so it's so rich, and it bleeds in over to family. Those
Yeah.
friendships, because a lot of people, they give the um, the name or the title. That's what I was looking for. They give the title of mom. They give the title of aunt. They give the title of pastor. They give the title of uncle. But do those people hold those spaces the way they should hold them? And once you start
Yes.
off with looking at what a friend is, you can let that bleed into those relationships that you've given title to already. You
Totally
know,
agree with you.
it's important. It's important that we allow the design of our life to be cultivated with the design of where we live. They both coincide. They both go together. So as you are creating these spaces for people where they're becoming an experience, they now can take that and pull it into other lines of their life. It doesn't just stop with the room. It doesn't just stop in the kitchen. It doesn't just stop in the bathroom. You created that space for them where they can say, wow, I've been given this experience from Miss Sarah, and now I can just not only live in this space, but pull it into with my child, pull it into with my daughter or my son, pull that same space that I love, that I now can see. It might even be a new experience for you. I can
Yeah.
now pull that into the friendship that I never went deep into, all because of this physical space that you recreated for someone. I now get to change an aspect of my life or my relationships. And I feel like
So
that's
true.
a calling that you have on your life that God has given you, where He's allowing you, because God doesn't just trust anybody in any space. There's no way He would have you come into a space and recreate it with His hand on you, and you're putting your hand on the space if He didn't trust you. So, an element that you have to bring to these spaces would have to be family, would have to be integrity, would have to be relationships. So, I feel like that's a mantle on your life that God has given you, that He trusts you with people, and you have the heart of the people, where you can go into a space and make it an experience, and it lasts a lifetime.
Thank you for speaking that over me. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely I'm gaining that because there are a lot of people who have different motives for why they do what they do.
Yep,
And
it's true.
I'm not, that's not here today. The heart is here
Well,
today.
yeah, it's true. And yesterday, just yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I was talking to my insurance agent, and he's a Christian as well. And we were
Hmm.
talking about how, like, the things that we do are important to us. We're talented in it, we're helping people, but the eternal goals are what drives us, right? So I love beautiful spaces, but I love the idea of what eternal impact they can have by the
Yeah,
lives that it changes through, so those sacred moments, through the quiet, the peace, and the
yeah,
hospitality that cultivates and kind of garners this community that we so desperately need, you know?
yeah, yeah. I love that. So as we close up today, I wanted you to not maybe advice, but influence to someone who wants to bring God into a space. We touched on it lightly, but if they wanted to bring God into their design or into their space, what would you say would be an influence or advice for them?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things I would step you into. One is, I know I touched on it a little bit, but let's think about our souls. If we want God to work in our souls, how will we expect to be able to do the work of growth or deepening of ourselves if we don't know ourselves, if we don't see our sin for what it is, if we don't see our lack of knowing as what it is? And so, step one in any spiritual side of things or the design, I would say, is understanding a knowing of what you need. And sometimes that takes just like spending some time understanding what designs you like, understanding how different spaces make you feel. Go to some friends' houses, go to a coffee shop, five coffee shops, and say, how does this space make me feel, and what about it is different? So is this one light and airy, or is this more of like a cave, dark, hunter greens and golds, and what do I like? And then we put those into this space in a way that brings you peace because of how it's designed, right? So every client's a little different. Everybody is a little bit different in the way that they feel most peaceful in a setting, and your history can also affect that as well. So once we find it, we know ourselves, we have a knowing of ourselves, just simple, like, and even asking God, like, God, show me what I enjoy and brings peace and what you've created that I'm drawn to.
Yes.
And then implement those things in your house as you can. And so some people say, I don't have a budget, it's too much. I think having everything have a story is more beautiful than having everything be a high end. So I don't care if it's you see an end stand for free alongside the road and you grab it with a friend and spray paint it a color you love because you're drawn to this color. That end stand always then has a story, right? And it
Right.
reminds you of beautiful moments with someone you care about, or just beautiful moments by yourself where you're redoing something and you're listening to worship music and you're creating this new space that's important to you. And it's important to God because it's filling you up, you know? And then
Yeah.
uh, we're talking about moments to create sacred spaces, I encourage people to have more of a still, quiet, peaceful space. A lot of sun, a lot of
Yeah.
natural light, a lot of natural items. So it could be a wood coffee table. It could be linen curtains versus more of the
Mm.
polyester. Um,
Right.
it could be things like throw blankets that are really soft and make you want to like snuggle into it, where you're really
Right.
just getting into this feeling, emotional and physical environment that calms the nervous system. Our brain waves are running at too high of a level all the time. We need to slow them
Mm.
down, give
Yes.
ourselves and our minds space to hear from God and
Mm.
really just be in tune with his spirit. And this is something I think a lot of Christians, we get too busy to focus on, myself included. And it's so important to get quiet time to hear from God. Go out in nature if you can. If you can't get out in nature, bring nature into your space as much as you can. Add some flowers, add some marble if it's or not marble, but like, because that's kind of hot. You can, but it's expensive. But just stone or natural elements within the space, and get it quiet, get it peaceful, and then really take the time to be with the Lord and hear from Him. And that's how I do the spaces that I design for clients. And it also, it ushers in so many more things than you would imagine. So this year, when I I prayed a lot about God speaking to me directly, and prompting me in what He wants me to do. And there were two things, and one was start painting again, like artistic paintings that I used to do, but I haven't in
Mhm.
probably 20 years.
Wow.
And then the other was write a book. And so I don't know why He wanted me to do either, but I started. And
Yeah.
I started painting. I had no idea if anyone would buy my paint. Literally, someone came up to me who was one of my top favorite designers in the country, and she reached out and said, "We want to start running your paintings in our stores." Now,
Wow.
it could fall through. We haven't signed on the dotted line, but even that, it was like, okay, God, like I heard
Yeah.
you, and I didn't know why, and I had no idea. And same thing with the book. I wrote a book. It's called Created to Create. I
Yes.
actually just got the author version
Yeah.
of it in,
Brother,
and
congratulations.
thank you. And it's kind of this response to the idea that sometimes in design we think of it as a separate thing from spirituality versus why is it important to God? I mean, God created the world. He cared about beauty. He cared about order. He cared about his creation. And how can we see that and also create spaces that usher in sacred moments? And so there's practical tips from very small items all the way up to bigger layout thoughts. And it's a small read. It's like 61 pages. It's not
Okay.
anything overwhelming, but that's up on Amazon. It'll be in Amazon in the next couple of days. So I recommend something like that, or just seeking help from someone that knows design, and if you have the budget, someone who knows design but also has a heart for God, if those sacred spaces are important to you. And we
Yes.
do have
Yes.
virtual consults too, if people ever want that, where we can help them from afar. And that's all on our website, funcycle.com. So it's FunCycled. So yeah, those are the ways that I would step through it on your own and then with help.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So today we have touched on so many things. So we got so deep in such a short amount of time because you're dealing with two people who are deep. You're
Yep.
dealing with two swords. So a conversation with us is never going to be light or come without layers, right?
Yes.
So it's super important. Like we said, we touched on friendship. We touched on integrity. We touched on bringing God into spaces. We touched on being in that still space. And to wrap it all up, to bring it all together, Miss Sarah has a book, Created to Create. Okay? It will be available soon. We will give you all the information in the link in the bio below so that you can reach out to her personally, and you can also reach out and get her book. I am not bringing anyone into my space of boss babes into my podcast who isn't worthy enough. I'm bringing in people who I know are legendary. I'm bringing in people who I know are going to give you tools that you need. So when I bring someone on, it's because it's something that from the heart I can give to you. Today, Miss Sarah Trop of FunCycle is a gem. She is someone who is going to show up, and God is going to not just respect, but God is going to award her. He's going to bless her because she shows up. Now He gets to show up.
Thank
She
you.
didn't ask. She didn't write a book because she didn't have nothing to do. She didn't write a book because she was looking for money, or that's what people do at a point in their career. Because a lot of people do at a certain point in their career, they write a book. That's not the case here. She went to God, and that's what was given to her. The only
That's right.
thing that you should ever take in when you get a book, when you hire someone, when you design a space, the only thing that you should look for is what God is saying.
True.
This skips to what God is saying. He said this to her. So everything she's put in the book is from Him to you. So in this season of going into creating your spaces for Christmas and creating your spaces for Thanksgiving and creating these spaces for the holidays or going into the new year, starting over fresh and again, because this conversation is a fresh one. When you're going into these fresh new spaces of recreating and bringing in experiences, come back to this episode. It is going to change the trajectory of how you design. This episode is going to change the trajectory of how you look at what design really is, and how it comes in layers and how it cultivates and drags into our actual relationships. How do we design the relationships that we want to be better, to look better, to feel better? To say that I really know you, friend. To say that I really can say, you know, me and you have layers together. Me and you have really created something together that became an experience that lasts a lifetime. And you're able to bring that from a physical space into a spiritual space, back into your friendships and your relationships. My God, today, this was an episode that was prophetic. It touched the heart. It was what people needed, because we didn't just come in with a script or questions that we wrote down. We came in with a flow of what God is saying He wants you to hear. And so when you go and you think about that new home you just bought, when you go and you think about that apartment that may seem too crammy, you know, think back on this episode of how I can A, create it with myself, or B, go with someone who has the heart of God and has been touched to create my space. And Miss Sarah Trop has been touched and anointed to create your space. So it makes sense to call her. It makes sense to grab her book. It makes sense to connect with someone who shows up and shows up with the intention of your heart and not her own.
Thank you so
And
much.
so we thank you. We thank
So
you. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you for coming and showing up today. We thank you for joining me today. You could have made a decision to do anything else, but you made a decision to be here. And that touches me. So I appreciate you. I'm loving on you whether you like it or not. And I want everybody to watch this episode and rewatch it. Rewatch it. So that you can write down what you need. Is there anything you'd like to close out with?
No, just thank you for having this podcast. Thank you for being sensitive to the Holy Spirit and leading people in this way. I think it's such a gift. You're really gifted in this. I've been on a lot of podcasts, and what a joy this has been with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Until next time, everybody.